My baby was 11 days old when my sister showed up at our door with a bruise on her cheek and a garbage bag full of clothes. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours straight since the birth. My body still ached in places I didn't know could ache. My husband stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed, watching me limp to the front door at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, and when I opened it and saw my sister standing there in the cold mascara down her face, shaking, I didn't hesitate for even a second. "Come in," I said. "You're staying here." My husband said nothing. Not that night. But the silence had a texture to it. "My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old. I have a daughter named Lily who, at the time this story begins, was less than 2 weeks old. My husband's name is Ryan. We'd been married for 3 years. We bought a house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, about 8 months before Lily was born, a 2-story with a guest room that still had the previous owner's beige curtains and a pull-out couch we'd never used. My sister's name is Dana. She's 28. She'd been dating a man named Trevor for 2 years, and I had never liked him. Not from the first time she brought him to Thanksgiving and he spent the whole dinner correcting her sentences. Not from the Christmas he told her she should lay off the rolls in front of our entire family. I'd told Dana how I felt, once, carefully, and she'd cried and said I didn't understand him. So I stopped saying it. I kept the door open and waited. And on that Tuesday in February, the door opened. She'd come straight from Trevor's apartment. He grabbed her during an argument, his hand around her wrist, then her face against the wall, and she grabbed her things while he was in the shower and driven 45 minutes in the dark to my house. She was still in her work clothes. I held her for a long time on the couch while Lily slept in the bassinet 3 feet away. I told her she could stay as long as she needed. I told her she was safe. Ryan stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment, then said, "I'm going to bed. The baby's going to be up at 2. He wasn't wrong. The baby was going to be up at 2. But the way he said it, like Dana's presence was a scheduling inconvenience, made something tighten in my chest. I told myself he was tired. We were both exhausted. New baby, no sleep, hormones, stress. I filed it away and stayed on the couch with my sister until she stopped shaking. Dana was quiet and careful those first few days. She slept in the guest room, kept to herself, helped me more than anyone had since Lily arrived. She washed bottles. She folded laundry. She sat with me through the 3 a.m. feedings and handed me water without being asked. She was grieving something. Her relationship, her apartment, the version of her life she'd believed in. And she was doing it quietly so as not to be a burden. Ryan came home from work the first evening and nodded at Dana in the kitchen and walked past her to the refrigerator. "Is there anything for dinner?" he asked me. Not her. Me. I was sitting at the kitchen table nursing Lily, running on 4 hours of broken sleep. "There's leftover pasta," I said. I was thinking something hot. Dana stood up from the counter without a word and started heating up the pasta in a pan, adding butter and garlic, making it into something better than it was. She set it in front of him without being asked. He ate it without saying thank you. That night, when we were in bed, he said, "How long is she planning to stay?" "She just left an abusive relationship," I said. "She needs a little time." "I know that," he said. "I'm just asking about a timeline." "I don't have one," I said. "She's my sister." He rolled over. "Okay," he said in the tone that didn't mean okay. By day 4, the temperature in the house had dropped in a way that had nothing to do with February. Ryan stopped greeting Dana when he came home. He would walk past her like she was furniture, address everything to me, and disappear into his office after dinner. When Dana and I laughed at something in the kitchen, I could hear him turn up the TV in the other room. Dana noticed. Of course she noticed. She started doing even more, cleaning the bathroom, vacuuming, buying groceries with her own money, as if she could earn her right to exist in our home. It made my chest hurt to watch her do it. She had come here with a bruise on her face and she was apologizing by wiping down the stovetop. One night, after Ryan had gone to bed early without saying goodnight to either of us, Dana looked at me across the kitchen table and said, "I can find somewhere else to go. A friend from work, maybe." Stop, I said. You are not going anywhere. You are my family. She nodded, but I could see what it was costing her. 2 weeks in, I was upstairs putting Lily down for a nap when I heard Ryan's voice from below, low and controlled the way it got when he was making a point. She needs to start looking for her own place. Then Dana's voice, quieter. I understand. I'm trying. Claire just had a baby. This house doesn't have unlimited room. I stood at the top of the stairs with Lily against my shoulder. I listened to my sister tell my husband she understood, that she was sorry, that she would figure something out. And I listened to my husband accept that apology like it was owed to him. I came downstairs, slowly. Ryan looked up at me. I was just saying. I heard what you were saying, I said. The silence stretched. Dana looked at the floor. I want to talk about this later, Ryan said, and went to his office. Dana looked up at me, and her eyes were wet. Claire, seriously, I don't want to cause problems. You didn't cause anything, I said. Go rest. I'll handle this. That night, I told Ryan I needed him to treat my sister with basic human decency. I wasn't asking him to be her best friend. I wasn't asking him to throw her a party. I was asking him to say good morning, to say thank you when she cooked, to acknowledge that she existed in a house where she was actively trying to earn her keep after surviving something that left a mark on her face. He said I was being dramatic. He said he was giving her space. He said this was hard on him too, having someone else in the house with a newborn. I thought about that word, dramatic, for a long time after he fell asleep. Dana stayed for 5 weeks. She found a therapist. She got in touch with a lawyer about a restraining order. She started looking at apartments. She was rebuilding her life from the floor up, quietly, in our guest room, and she was doing it with more grace than I would have managed. On the day she moved out, she hugged me in the driveway for a long time. She whispered, "Thank you for not making me feel like a burden." She didn't say anything about Ryan. She didn't have to. I watched her drive away, and then I stood in the driveway in the cold for a few minutes before going back inside. Ryan seemed lighter that evening. He made dinner. He asked how Lily was sleeping. He was, for the first time in 5 weeks, warm. I noticed that too. I noticed all of it. 4 months passed. Lily grew. The guest room went back to its beige curtains and unused pull-out couch. Life resumed its shape. Ryan and I didn't talk about the 5 weeks. I think he believed it had resolved itself. I think he believed I had moved on. I was still thinking about a woman scrubbing a stovetop to earn her right to be safe. It was a Thursday afternoon in late June when Ryan called me from work. "Hey, so, my brother called." His brother's name is Paul. Paul is 34. He lives in Nashville, or had been living in Nashville, where he'd been working in construction until, as Ryan explained it on the phone, things got complicated. He's between jobs right now, Ryan said, and his lease is up at the end of the month. I already knew where this was going. He needs somewhere to land for a little bit, Ryan said, just until he gets back on his feet. I was thinking the guest room. I sat with that for a moment. Lily was on her playmat in front of me, batting at a dangling elephant. I watched her tiny fist open and close. "How long?" I said. "I don't know. A few weeks, maybe. A month, tops." I thought about, how long is she planning to stay? I thought about, how long is she planning to stay? I thought about, this house doesn't have unlimited room. I thought about my sister on the couch at 9 p.m. with mascara on her face, and then my sister at the stovetop making garlic butter pasta for a man who didn't say thank you. "Okay," I said. "Yeah?" He sounded genuinely relieved. "We have the guest room," I said. "He's family." I could hear the smile in his voice. Paul arrived on a Saturday with 2 duffel bags and a guitar he didn't play anymore and a very easy smile. He was the kind of man who filled up a room without trying. Loud laugh, big opinions, always in the middle of a story. Ryan lit up when he saw him. They did that thing brothers do, the backslapping hug, and then Paul came in and looked around the house and said, "Bro, this place is nice." I made lunch. Paul ate 2 sandwiches and told a long story about a job site in Memphis that ended with someone's truck in a ditch. Ryan laughed until he cried. I smiled and cleared the plates. That first week, I watched. Ryan suggest takeout because Claire's been tired, which was true, I had been tired, but I'd also been tired for 5 weeks while my sister was here and no one suggested takeout then. I watched Ryan tell Paul to help himself to anything in the fridge, freely whenever he wanted. I watched Ryan ask Paul every single day how he was doing, what he needed, whether he wanted to drive out somewhere on the weekend. Paul did not scrub the stovetop. Paul did not fold any laundry. Paul left his dishes in the sink with the specific confidence of a man who had never once been made to feel like a guest. I was not asked once how I felt about any of this. One evening in the second week, I was up at midnight with Lily. A bad night, lots of crying, possible ear infection, and I came downstairs for the gas drops and found Paul on the couch watching television at full volume. "Oh, hey," he said, not lowering the volume. "Hey," I said. I found the gas drops. I stood in the kitchen for a moment. "She okay?" he asked, nodding at Lily. "Working on it," I said. He turned back to the TV. I sat with Lily in the rocking chair in the nursery and thought very clearly, for the first time, about what I was going to do. The ear infection was real. The pediatrician confirmed it the next morning. Lily needed antibiotics and rest and patience. I was running on nothing. My sister was in a studio apartment 45 minutes away rebuilding her life, and there was a man in my guest room watching cable at midnight with the volume up. Ryan came home from work that evening and Paul had ordered pizza with Ryan's credit card, which he'd left on the counter. And the two of them were watching a game in the living room when I got up from putting Lily down and came to stand in the doorway. "How much time off do you have left?" I asked Ryan. He had 2 weeks of paternity leave that he'd rolled over. He hadn't taken them yet. "Few weeks on the books," he said. "Why?" "I need help," I said. "I need help," I said. "Lily has an ear infection. I've been up 3 nights running. I need you to take some of that leave." He looked at the screen. "I can't really do it right now. There's a project." "When my sister was here," I said. "You asked me every 3 days when she was leaving." The room got quiet. Paul picked up his pizza slice and became very interested in the game. That's different," Ryan said. "How?" I said. It wasn't really a question. He didn't answer. "I need you to think about that," I said. "I'm going to bed." I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and felt something I hadn't expected. Calm. Not the calm of someone who had given up. The calm of someone who had finally seen something clearly and was deciding what to do about it. I had been nursing a sick baby, recovering from childbirth, managing a household, and absorbing the emotional weight of my sister's crisis, all while my husband counted down the days until my family would stop being inconvenient. And now his family was here, freely, eating his pizza and watching his TV, and it was fine. It was easy. No one was counting days. I thought about all the words Ryan had used when Dana was here. Timeline. Unlimited room. Hard on me too. I thought about all the words he didn't use for Paul. Any of those words, even once. I called Dana the next morning while Ryan was in the shower and Paul was still asleep at 10 a.m. "I need you to know something," I said. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," I said. "I just wanted to tell you that I see it now. I saw it when you were here, but I see it more clearly now. And I'm sorry it took me this long." She was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to handle it," I said. But I wanted to say that first. When Ryan came downstairs, Paul was still asleep, and Lily was in the bouncer, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, waiting. He poured himself coffee. He leaned against the counter. He sensed something. "Morning," he said cautiously. "I want to talk," I said. He sat down. I said it slowly and clearly because I'd spent the night deciding exactly how I wanted to say it. I told him about the stovetop. I told him about the timeline conversation I'd overheard, and the way my sister had apologized to him when she was the one who'd shown up with a bruise on her face. I told him about Paul watching TV at midnight while I walked a sick baby. I told him about every glass of water Dana handed me at 3 a.m. and every dish Paul left in the sink. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I laid it out the way you'd lay out a set of facts you'd been organizing for a long time. When I was done, Ryan said, I didn't realize. I know, I said. But I need you to realize now, because I've been watching you treat my family like an imposition and your family like a privilege, and I can't keep pretending that's normal. He was quiet. I love you, I said. But something needs to change. Not eventually. Now. He looked at the table. He looked at Lily and her bouncer. He looked at me. What do you want me to do? He asked. I want you to take the paternity leave, I said. Starting Monday, I want you to tell Paul that the stay has a timeline, 1 month from today. And I want you to tell Paul that the stay has a timeline, 1 month from today. And I want you to call Dana and apologize. He blinked. Apologize for what specifically? You'll figure it out, I said. You're smart. He sat with that for a long time. Long enough that Lily started fussing and I got up and picked her up and held her against my shoulder and watched him think. Finally he said, You're right. 2 words. Simple. But I'd waited 4 months to hear something like them, and my whole chest loosened when they landed. He called Dana 2 days later. I don't know exactly what he said. I gave them privacy. But when he hung up, he came and found me in the nursery and said, She was generous. She didn't have to be. That's who she is, I said. He nodded. I know that now. Paul left 5 weeks later, not because Ryan forced the issue, but because Ryan told him clearly and kindly that they needed their house back. And Paul, who was actually a decent person underneath the entitlement, understood and found a situation with a work buddy in Cincinnati and left on a Saturday with his duffel bags and his unplayed guitar and a genuine hug goodbye. Before he left, he looked at me and said, Thanks for putting up with me. Your family, I said, and I meant it. Both parts of it. That evening, after Paul's truck had pulled out of the driveway, Ryan and I sat on the back porch with the baby monitor between us and the summer dark coming in at the edges, and he said, I've been thinking about what you said. About the stovetop? Yeah? I keep thinking about what that must have felt like, he said, for her. Coming here like that, and then feeling like she had to earn it. I didn't say anything. I don't want to be that person, he said. I know, I said. Am I going to be able to fix it? With her? You already started, I said. He reached over and held my hand. We sat there for a while without talking, listening to the monitor breathe. I thought about Dana in the guest room at 3 a.m., handing me a glass of water in the dark. I thought about the word dramatic and the word timeline and the word okay that didn't mean okay. I thought about how long I'd been filing things away, telling myself it was exhaustion, telling myself it was the newborn haze, telling myself it wasn't what it was. And I thought about the morning I'd sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and decided I was done filing. Lily started fussing on the monitor. Ryan stood up before I could. I've got her, he said. I sat on the porch alone for a few more minutes and listened to him through the open window. His voice low and steady, the way it sounds when he doesn't know anyone is listening, telling our daughter it was okay, that he was there, that everything was fine. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't an apology note or a dramatic declaration. It was just a man learning, slowly, how to show up. That's the thing no one tells you about the moments that change a marriage. They don't always look like a confrontation. Sometimes they look like a man getting up off a porch chair to answer a baby monitor so his wife can sit in the dark for 5 more minutes and breathe. I breathed, and then I went inside.